Long ago, the village of Kavi was known far and wide for its powerful drummers. The villagers said that their music could call the rain, heal the sick, and even scare away evil spirits. But their power wasn't just in their skill. It came from a magical drum called Godo, the Last Drum of Kavi. The drum was said to hold the soul of the forest itself. It was made by the first drummers of the village, who carved it from the sacred iroko tree and bound it with the strongest leather. When they played it, the world listened. But one day, the drum disappeared. No one knew how or why, but its loss brought sadness to the village. The rain stopped coming as often, the crops withered, and the once strong village became quiet and forgotten. Elders told stories of the drum, warning the children never to look for it. It is cursed, they would say. Spirits guard it, and those who seek it never return. But there was one boy who didn't believe the stories. His name was Tund. Tund was only 12, but his heart was big, and his dreams were even bigger. He loved drumming more than anything in the world. His father, Baba Ade, was the village's best drummer, and every evening, Tund would sit by the fire, watching his father's hands dance over the drum. Tund wanted to be like him, but no matter how hard he practiced, his rhythms never sounded the same. "You must feel the drum, Tund," Baba Ade would tell him. "A good drummer plays with their hands, but a great drummer plays with their heart." One evening, Tund sat by the river, staring at the water. He had been practicing all day, but his beat still didn't sound right. He felt frustrated and small. As the sun dipped below the trees, he thought about Godo, the Last Drum of Kavi. What if it wasn't cursed? What if the stories were just to keep people away? If he could find it, maybe he could become the best drummer in the village. Maybe he could bring pride back to Kavi. His best friend, Zainab, found him sitting there. She was the only one who understood Tund's dreams. "Why are you so quiet?" she asked, sitting beside him. "I'm thinking about the drum," Tund admitted. "What if it's real? What if it could help us?" Zainab's eyes widened. "Tund, no. You know what the elders say. The drum is cursed. People have died looking for it. What if they are wrong?" Tund asked. "What if it's not cursed? What if I find it and bring it back to the village?" Zainab sighed. "Even if you could find it, the forest is dangerous. No one knows where the drum is." "I'll find it," Tund said firmly. "I just need to try." Zainab shook her head. "You're so stubborn. If you're going, I'm coming too. Someone has to stop you from getting eaten by a lion." Tund grinned. "You'd scare the lion away." The next morning, before the sun rose, Tund and Zainab left the village. They carried a small bag of food, a water gourd, and a stick for protection. The forest was thick and quiet, except for the sound of birds and rustling leaves. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The trees grew tall and twisted, their branches blocking out the sun. "We should turn back," Zainab whispered after a while. "This place feels wrong." But Tund shook his head. "We are close. I can feel it." Hours passed, and the forest grew colder. Suddenly, a deep sound rumbled through the trees. It was faint, like distant thunder, but steady, boom, boom, boom. Tund's heart raced. "That's it," he said. "That's the drum." Zainab grabbed his arm. "Wait. What if it's a trap?" Tund hesitated. The elders' warnings echoed in his mind, but he couldn't stop now. "We have to try," he said, pulling away. They followed the sound until they came to a clearing. In the center stood an old, twisted tree, its roots tangled like a giant's hands. At its base was a small cave, and from inside the cave came the drumming. Tund and Zainab crept closer. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. When they reached the cave, Tund stopped. "Stay here," he told Zainab. Are you crazy? I'm not letting you go in alone, she said. Before Tond could argue, a voice boomed from the cave, loud and cold. Who dares disturb the drum of Kavi? Tond and Zainab froze as a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a spirit, tall and glowing, with eyes like fire. Its voice thundered, you have entered sacred ground. The drum does not belong to mortals. Leave now, or face the wrath of the forest. Tond's legs trembled, but he forced himself to speak. Please, he said, his voice shaking. I didn't come to steal the drum. I came to help my village. We've lost our way, and we needed to bring us back together. The spirit studied him, its fiery eyes narrowing. If you wish to take the drum, you must prove your worth. Face the trials of the forest. If you succeed, the drum will be yours. If you fail, your soul will belong to the forest forever. Tond swallowed hard. I'll do it. No, Tond. Zainab cried. You don't have to do this. I do, Tond said, looking at her. For the village. For us. The spirit raised its hand, and the ground shook. The first trial begins now, it said. The trial of fear. Suddenly, the forest around them changed. The trees grew taller, their branches twisting into dark shapes. Shadows danced on the ground, and strange whispers filled the air. Tond and Zainab stood back to back, gripping their sticks. What do we do? Zainab asked, her voice trembling. We keep moving, Tond said, though his own legs felt like jelly. As they walked, the shadows grew darker. Shapes began to emerge, giant spiders, snarling beasts, and faceless figures that seemed to float. Tond's heart pounded, but he remembered his father's words, a great drummer plays with their heart. I'm not afraid of you. Tond shouted at the shadows. You're not real. The shapes hissed and lunged at him, but he held his ground. Beside him, Zainab swung her stick, her fear turning into anger. Slowly, the shadows began to fade, their whispers growing quiet. When the forest returned to normal, the spirit appeared again. You have passed the first trial, it said. But the journey is far from over. Tond and Zainab stood side by side, their breaths heavy from the fear and tension of the first trial. The spirit's fiery eyes looked down at them, its voice deep and commanding. You may have faced your fear, the spirit said, but the forest will test your heart next. Prepare yourselves. The second trial begins now, the trial of trust. Before either of them could respond, the spirit vanished, and the forest around them shifted again. The ground trembled, and the trees seemed to move, their trunks twisting into new shapes. In the blink of an eye, Tond and Zainab were separated. Tond. Zainab's voice echoed from somewhere far away. Zainab. Where are you? Tond called, but there was no answer. Panic filled his chest. The forest around him had become a maze of vines and thick fog, and every path seemed to lead deeper into the unknown. Zainab, on the other hand, was trapped in a hollow surrounded by tall trees. She could hear Tond's voice faintly but couldn't see him. Tond. I'm here, she shouted, but her voice felt like it was swallowed by the trees. Suddenly, a new voice emerged from the shadows around Tond. It was soft and sweet, like a lullaby. You don't need her, Tond, the voice whispered. She's holding you back. You could take the drum yourself and become the greatest drummer in all of Kavi. Tond froze. The words slithered into his mind, planting seeds of doubt. He tried to shake them off, but the voice continued. You've always known she's afraid. She'll only slow you down. Leave her behind. No. Tond shouted. I'd never leave Zainab. She's my friend. At the same time, Zainab was hearing a different voice. It was sharp and cruel, filling her heart with uncertainty. Tond doesn't need you, it hissed. He only brought you along because he didn't want to be alone. He thinks you're weak. Zainab clenched her fist. That's not true, she yelled. Tond would never think that. But the voice didn't stop. He's already forgotten about you. Why don't you leave him to the spirits? Save yourself. Zainab shook her head fiercely. No. Tond needs me, and I'm not going to leave him. As the voices tried to break their spirits, both Tond and Zainab kept moving, following the faint sounds of each other's voices. The forest grew darker, the air thicker, but they refused to give up. Finally, after what felt like hours, Tond broke through the fog and saw Zainab ahead of him. She was sitting on the ground, looking tired but determined. When she saw him, her face lit up. Tond, she cried, running to him. I told you I wouldn't leave you. Tond said with a grin. And I told the spirits the same thing. Zainab replied, laughing through her relief. As soon as they reunited, the spirit appeared again. Its fiery eyes glowed brighter, and it spoke with a tone of approval. You have passed the trial of trust. Together, you are stronger than alone. But the final test will push you beyond your limits. Are you ready for the last trial? Tond and Zainab exchanged a glance. They were scared, yes, but they nodded firmly. We are ready, Tond said. The spirit raised its hand, and the forest changed again. This time, the ground beneath them crumbled away, leaving them standing on a small, rocky platform surrounded by darkness. In the center of the platform sat the last drum of Kavi, glowing faintly with golden light. This is the trial of sacrifice, the spirit announced. The drum is powerful, but its magic comes at a cost. To claim it, one of you must offer what is most precious to you. Tond and Zainab stared at the drum, then at each other. What does that mean? Zainab asked, her voice trembling. It means, the spirit said, that you must give up something dear to you, your strength, your dreams, or even your freedom. Only then can the drum be yours. Tond stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. I'll do it, he said. I'll make the sacrifice. No. Zainab protested, grabbing his arm. Why should you be the one? We came here together. I should do it. Tond shook his head. This was my idea, Zainab. I wanted to find the drum. It's my responsibility. But you can't do this alone, Zainab said, her eyes filling with tears. We're a team, Tond. If anyone has to make a sacrifice, we should do it together. Tond's heart ached at her words, but before he could respond, the spirit spoke again. The drum is not for the selfish or the proud. It belongs to those who understand its true purpose. If you both wish to claim it, your hearts must beat as one. Tond and Zainab looked at each other, and in that moment, they understood what they had to do. They stepped forward together, their hands clasped tightly. We offer our friendship, Tond said, his voice steady. Our bond is what's most precious to us. If taking the drum means risking that, we'll face it together. The spirit stared at them, its fiery eyes unreadable. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, slowly, the spirit began to smile. You have passed the final trial, it said. The drum is yours. The rocky platform began to glow, and the drum floated into the air. It landed gently in Tond's arms, its surface warm to the touch. As soon as he held it, he felt a powerful energy flow through him, as if the soul of the forest was speaking to him. The spirit's voice softened. The drum's power is not in its magic but in the hearts of those who play it. Use it wisely, and Kavi will thrive once more. The darkness around them lifted, and they found themselves back in the clearing. The forest was alive with light, and the air felt warm and welcoming. Tond and Zainab smiled at each other, tears of relief streaming down their faces. They had done it. They had found the last drum of Kavi.